You're listening to Big World Network.
Accidental Passion, Episode 7, Healing, read by Meagan Hedin. Warning: although there is no material subject matter within that couldn't be found in any general bookstore with no age constraint, this series is rated 18 and contains adult situations and content. It is intended for mature audiences only and should not be read if you are uncomfortable with graphic sexual intimacy. Ryan McCoy had writer's block. He sat in front of his computer and ran his fingers through his red hair with frustration, letting out a slow, deep breath. He stared blankly at the monitor in the dark room, trying to focus. It wasn't the first time he had writer's block, but the reason was definitely a unique twist. He chuckled to himself as he mentally summed it up. He was an accomplished pilot holding an airline transport license, was a best-selling author, wealthy, and lived a dream life by virtually anyone's standards. Yet there he was, unable to do what he did best because he was still obsessed with Kim. What was even more absurd to him was that he didn't know her, and despite intellectually knowing better, he believed that somehow she was the one. Ryan was not about to admit that, and he knew, of course, that it was crazy, and he was just creating his own fantasy. But something on another level told him that he wasn't crazy for feeling this way, that there was a connection that went beyond the physical. Once again, his thoughts drifted back to Kim, as they had so many times since the flight with their secret touches under the blanket. As he took in a breath, visualizing the dark interior of the jet around him and the sound of the engines, he could almost smell her scent and soft, subtle perfume. He wondered what she thought of him, what kind of man she must think he is to do something so bold as to touch a virtual stranger like that. He so wanted to be able to tell her that he wasn't that kind of man, that there was something about her, something about that evening on the flight that had made him somehow know it was the connection they both needed. 3 times since he had returned to Detroit that evening, he had received blocked calls with no one on the other end. He desperately wanted to believe that it was Kim, and that she was thinking about him and their flight together, but he knew it was unlikely anyone could be obsessing as much as he was. As was often the case when he thought about Kim lately, Ryan felt himself growing hard in his faded blue jeans. It was probably his ability as a writer, being able to mentally visualize and experience things so they could be put on paper and shared with the reader, that caused him to get aroused so easily when his thoughts drifted back to her. He once again experienced the electricity of his fingers first making light contact with her leg, his heart racing, hoping she wouldn't pull away. As his thoughts wandered deeper, his desire for her was so overwhelming that his hand gently found its way to where he was hardening beneath his jeans. He remembered the feeling that at any moment, anything could have broken the spell, and she would have pulled away or stopped him. He could feel the smoothness of her legs, remembering the sensation of finally sliding up her thigh and under the blanket. He felt his hard cock jump slightly from the touch of his hand over his jeans, and the memory of that first moment, feeling the fabric of her panties and sliding a finger under them between her legs. He remembered the warmth and the ever-so-slight, almost imperceptible gasps and movements she made. He could almost again feel her softness as he brushed over her most sensitive skin and his fingertip found her opening. He had been surprised by how hot and wonderful she had felt, and the incredible silky wet interior of her most private spot that she was allowing him to share with her under the blanket on a crowded flight. She had allowed him into her body to explore and pleasure with his fingers. It didn't get more intimate than that. He knew he had to stop this memory, or he would once again find himself needing to pleasure himself, wondering if she had ever done the same, touched herself in the thrall of their shared memories of that evening. He was frustrated with his desire for her, and knew that the only way to clear his writer's block, as well as the only way to get her out of his thoughts, was to find her and get past these crazy ideas of some connection so he could move on with his life. Alicia was sore. As she lay in the hospital bed with her leg securely immobilized after her surgery 2 days ago, she decided she was very thankful for the patient-controlled morphine drip. She really wasn't surprised her leg was sore, but was amazed at how sore the rest of her body was from the jarring impact of the car accident. Kevin had been by several times since, as had some of her friends and other coworkers at the dental office. It was a good feeling, knowing she had so many friends that cared about her. "How are you tonight?" a voice called from the doorway. It was Mary, her angel who had looked after her since she came into the ER. Mary had traded shifts with a floor nurse who was eager to get some experience in the emergency room just so she could help take care of Alicia the last 2 days. "I'm thankful for pain medication," Alicia joked as Mary came in with some washcloths and a stainless steel wash bowl and pulled a maroon privacy curtain around the bed. Although nothing had ever been said, Mary being much too professional to ever say anything while Alicia was a patient, Alicia knew there was an obvious attraction. She also knew that she felt the same way. "Let's clean you up a bit," Mary said casually. She stepped away through an opening in the curtain to a sink to fill the bowl with warm, soapy water. As had been the case the last 2 nights, Alicia felt her heart skip a beat. Mary never crossed any kind of line, but there was something different about her touch as she washed Alicia's body that made her feel so close to Mary and filled her with desire. And there was something about being totally dependent on someone else that made her feel even closer. Suddenly, with no thought as to the consequences, and certainly induced somewhat from the morphine, Alicia spoke as Mary came back through the curtain. "I need to tell you something."
This has been a presentation of Big World Network. Visit us on BigWorldNetwork.com for more free weekly series, or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Big World Network.